Okay, well, I think we'll get started with the presentation. As I said just before, feel free to post little messages in the chat as we go along. Just to get started, my name's Toby Story. I'm the owner of Southern Sea Ventures, and we're very fortunate to have Chris with us today. Would you like to do a quick intro, Chris?
Quick intro.
Yeah.
I live down the road from Toby, quite literally. But for a long time, we led very parallel lives, I guess, guiding around the world, and we've both ended up home in Tasmania. And I've come along to SSV about a year ago now, and am focusing on helping Toby with operations, but also getting out to guide, 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
enjoying it.
And of course, into the Solomons, which is why Chris is here. He's going to share a bunch of stories from our most recent adventure in the Solomon Islands. For anyone who's not aware, Southern Sea Ventures, we're sort of a specialist kayak company with a focus on active travel. Started in the 1980s out in Fiji, and we're now operating in, I think we've got around 40 itineraries. I don't remember. We keep adding new ones, but in around 10 to 15 different destinations around the world. So you can see the dots throughout the Pacific into Europe and also up into the polar region. So we do quite a lot of operations up in Greenland, Svalbard, and down to the Antarctic Peninsula, as well as down into the Ross Sea, which will be coming up very, very shortly. But of course, today we're just here to talk about our trip in the Solomon Islands. And so, where is the Solomon Islands? It's really sort of an extension of the island chain that runs out from Papua New Guinea. It's only about a 3.5 hour flight from Australia, so it's actually very accessible, quite similar to Fiji, just out here, and reasonably accessible from the US as well via New Zealand, Fiji, Australia, or New Guinea if you happen to be there. As I was just saying, we've got the airports in Honiara, which is where the trip begins and finishes on some of our departures. And Solomon Islands, Qantas, Fiji Airways, and Air Niugini all service that airport with varying schedules. So the vessel itself is a expedition style. Chris has dubbed it the Jacques Cousteau style, which is very functional. It's not a luxury vessel, but it's very comfortable and incredibly well built for the type of expeditions that we're doing out there in the Solomon Islands. Sleeps up to four. We've got 7 cabins with up to 14 people plus crew, guides, chefs, etc. as well. Cabins are again not luxury cabins, but comfort. We've got cabins, lower deck cabins, twin share berths, and up to more comfortable and spacious captain suite right up the top of the vessel. So I'll just do very quickly. Where do we start? So here in Honiara, our trip in May travels all the way through and terminates in Munda, which is what Chris did on the last voyage. And then for our next voyage in November, out of Honiara, out through the Russell Islands, out to the Morovo Lagoon, which many people have heard of, and back to Honiara again. Both trips are 11 nights, 12 days, including your hotel night on the first evening. With either finishing the trip in Munda or Honiara. Munda has a small airport. It's a very small little town. It's very close to the port. Everything's close together. And so there's direct flights back to Honiara from there. And Chris, I might just hand over to you to
Sure.
tell us a
Yeah.
bit more about the
Indeed.
voyage itself.
Yeah. Before we dive in, let's go back to the map. And because this is kind of three main areas that we visit, and of course we start in on the island of Guadalcanal, which we all know from World War II history. So Honiara is the capital there, and then it's an overnight steam up to the Russell Islands. So the Russell Islands are kind of in the middle there between New Georgia and Guadalcanal. And then New Georgia is what we call it, the northwest region of the Solomons. And you've probably heard of Morovo Lagoon, which is the sort of southern or southeastern end of New Georgia. So they're the three areas. We don't spend much time in Honiara. That's really just our meeting place. and of course where we do our procurement and prep for the vessel. And we set off of an evening. So we board the boat and then have dinner, do all our safety briefings and familiarization with the vessel. And then we do our overnight steam. So when you wake up on that first morning of the trip itself, you're in sort of deepest, darkest Solomon Islands. It's a fantastic feeling to wake up 6 a.m. and look outside and go, oh, we're in somewhere totally new and unusual. You can smell the jungle. It's a fantastic, fantastic feeling. So we have an itinerary that we sort of loosely follow, but like most of our trips, the itinerary is just a guideline, and we sort of move day to day based on the weather and conditions, the sea state, etc. The Solomon Islands, it's a bit different from Palau, Fran, where you're in sort of very small rock island. It's a World Heritage Area. It's all protected. Solomons has villages and communities. It's a much bigger terrain. So there's two full overnight steams, one from Honiara to the Russells, and then the other from the Russell Islands up and into Morovo Lagoon. So we can hop into the kayaks straight off the dive deck, and there's a big platform on the back of the vessel, and we can hop into the kayaks. But whenever we can, we really like to find a little beach, and we'll bring the kayaks in and hop into the kayaks, from the beach. And it was just incredible. Every location we found a neat little beach tucked away, usually right on the edge of the jungle and right on the edge of the reef. So there's no fringing reef like you might experience in Palau or other locations, or even Great Barrier Reef. These reefs tend to drop off into big, deep water, which makes for fantastic paddling. So quite often we'd end up we'd choose a protected site to paddle for the day, or half day, depending on our energy levels, and we'd head out. We've got a range of doubles and singles like we do in most locations. As far as I'm aware, there's only 6 double kayaks in the Solomons and 4 singles, which are ours. So we've got our own fleet of kayaks, which we shipped over. They live in Honiara, and we pop them on the boat for each trip. So they're brand new. Well, the doubles are brand new boats, and the singles are from our Tassie fleet. But yeah, nice, good quality boats as usual, and lots of crazy places to explore. For me, I've traveled a lot. I've been paddling a lot of destinations around the world, and Solomon's really blew my mind. The island chains out there have like amazing lagoons, incredible reef and reef edges and drop-offs. This one here, we found this one on the chart, and from above it looked like it was a perfect circle, and we couldn't quite figure it out till we realized that the reef actually creates the circle. So we could paddle in across the reef and then explore right around the lagoon. This is in the northern end of the Russells, and this is a really good example, I guess, of what a normal day, or I guess normal, inverted commas, because wouldn't call any of our days out there normal, but the reefs drop off very, very deeply. So quite often the vessel has to use a mooring because we don't have 200 meters of anchor chain. So just out in the channel here, the depth was about 200 meters, which is quite incredible. It drops off quickly. So we moored there, so tied up to a mooring buoy. And then first thing in the morning, we paddled around the northern island here. Those that were super keen kept going for the morning, and some of the others were keen to go back and relax. So we had the option of, circumnavigating one island, going back to the vessel, or continuing on. So the keen folks, we all paddled on for another probably 9 Ks or so into the late morning, just following the reef edge and exploring as we go. Back to the vessel for a relaxing lunch. We have a fantastic cook called Freddie on board, who's quite a character and a very talented cook. So have our lunch. We all voted early on to have siestas on this trip, so we'd have a little rest and a slash siesta after lunch, and then we'd head out for an afternoon activity or two. So in this location, we could actually just swim from the vessel to the reef edge, and there's this fantastic snorkeling You can see in the photo there, right along the reef edge. And then we also did a village visit here where we went ashore arranged with the chief there, um, and explored around the village. Um, Solomon's is different from some destinations that we go to where there's communities everywhere. So everywhere we either anchored or moored for the night. Before long, local villagers would come out in their canoes and they'd bring out fruit and veg to sell. It's quite difficult for them to get any produce to market. So whenever a boat like ours comes by, it's an opportunity for some commerce. And for us, it's fantastic because it means we can access fresh fruit and veg throughout the trip. So we ate a lot of pineapple, a lot of papaya, and an awful lot of bananas. So you really a prerequisite for this trip is you really need to like bananas. We had fried bananas, banana bread, banana cake, fresh bananas, bananas with ice cream, bananas with chocolate and ice cream. I lost count.
Banana pancakes?
Oh, we had banana pancakes too, yes.
My favorite.
I think we ate about 300 bananas on the trip. The vessel has two small, Zodiacs. These ones are aluminium hulled, so they're a rigid hull inflatable. And having two means that we can split the activities up. So we have divers or diving available on the boat. And on this particular voyage, we had four super keen divers. They were less keen on kayaking and more keen on diving. And so quite often the kayakers would head out for the morning, and the divers would head out at the same time. So we have an SSV group leader on every voyage, and then we also have two Solomon's dive guides, Brian and Una, who are incredibly knowledgeable. Brian, actually, they're both from New Georgia. So the closer we got to Munda and New Georgia Island, the more excited they got. They really love their home, and were fantastic to share their knowledge. There's Brian showing us the traditional conch shell. So we went ashore. We went to beaches quite regularly, but we went, exploring ashore on 3 or 4 different occasions. It was really nice to get out, stretch our legs. This is a small, or near a small village called Piva, which is right at the southern end of Morovo Lagoon. And we went ashore there because a good guiding friend of mine ended up marrying a girl from that village. So we had a good connection, and it was really nice to go ashore and meet friends of friends and be shown around as if we were kind of family. It was very, very nice. At this village, they put on a small show for us, and it was quite interesting. A lot of us had sort of had questions about how touristy it is, and it was really interesting to hear the chief, who was very articulate, explain to us that by us coming along and paying some fees to visit the village, and for him to pay his community members to conduct their tribal dances for us, that it's really, really positive. It's positive for the community because it brings us a small amount of income, but it's also positive because it gives them some motivation to maintain their customs. And as globalization spreads across these regions, a lot of those customs gradually, they lose their power in the community. So the chief was very excited about knowing that we're going to come back and that the other dive trips that use the same vessel will come back to the same village. And everyone just loves, it's like a festival when they put their dance on. But sometimes I wonder who's actually on display. Like, are we looking at them or are they looking at us? The kids just love us coming to visit, and there's a real genuine curiosity. And it was great because in the Solomons, everyone speaks English of varying degrees, but pretty well. And so it was fantastic to be able to have in-depth conversations. And in other places that I've traveled where you don't have English speaking locals, you miss that opportunity. So you can't sort of interact at a more shallow level. So everyone really enjoyed the fact that we could sit down and ask questions about them, and they could ask questions about us. Of course, snorkeling's a major part of these trips. Never actually mapped out the amount of time we spent on the water or under the water, but probably kayaking was about 50% and snorkeling was about 50%. Everyone was very, very keen to spend time. So that's just getting in off the Zodiac, have a little ladder. So they're quite easy to get in and get out again. And the underwater world there blew my mind. The visibility was generally amazing, not all the time, but mostly was like incredible. The all the islands are volcanic, so there's all this crazy geology that I've never seen underwater before. And quite often we would dive, well, the divers would be in the water and the snorkelers would be on the same site. So the snorkelers would be above and we could see the divers, 20 meters below us, exploring these caves and slots. I think for me, some of my favorite experiences snorkeling is the micro world that's down there. Not so much the megafauna or anything like that, but the small stuff. And on this group, everyone was really into the small stuff. So anemone fish, of course, are everyone's favorite. And there's a different type of anemone fish, not the classic Nemo coloring. And once again, the divers are just right below us. So our snorkeling days would kind of vary based on conditions. The wind can come in and make things a bit lumpy, but we'd always, because we've got the Zodiacs, we can move around and we've got the flexibility to find nice sheltered spots. So quite often, as we planned the day, we'd have an idea in our head, but we'd often change it based on the weather. And there is some current there as well. So quite often we'd plan the snorkeling so that we'd put in on the upstream end of the current and then float along with the current and the tidal current, taking us along the reef edge. So it's a wonderfully relaxing way to snorkel. This spot here is quite famous in the diving world. It's called Leroux Cut, and it was quite incredible. So the snorkelers, we all snorkeled in on the surface, and the divers were down below us at about 12 meters of depth. And this is a geological feature, a big cut in the side of the cliff. From the outside, you could almost not see it, and everyone's like, What's all the fuss about? Like, where's all the hype?" And then we hopped in, and once we swam in, there's the most incredible light coming in and lighting up this kind of canyon. And we swam in about 100 to 150 meters, and the jungle closes in over the top of the slot. And you can stop and put your head up once you're in the slot, and it's just jungle and birds and jungle life all above you. So I've never seen anything quite like that. We dived and snorkeled a couple of other sites, another one called Mirror Pond that was very similar. If you're brave, there was a big swim through to go into it, or you could snorkel around carefully in just quite shallow water and into this pond. And if you duck down and look up, there's this mirror calm, and you can see all the jungle reflected in the surface of the water. It was quite incredible. So for me, that element of the jungle and the geology and the underwater world, I've never seen anything like that anywhere else, even in Palau, which is
Mm.
spectacular. But this is another level of super interesting geology. And of course, everyone hears about the Solomons and World War II history,
Mm.
and it's evident kind of everywhere. So some of the beaches had old, portable docks or jetties from landings. There was another site we dived and we found a forklift that had been just pushed over, I think, when the Americans left one of their bases. And of course, the underwater aircraft wrecks were incredibly fascinating. For me personally, I just find it mind-boggling to wrap my head around the scale of what took place there. And you think about these fighter planes being like these small fighter planes, but when you're up close, they're enormous. They're huge. Their engines are meters round, and they're very, I guess, evocative when you picture the reality of what took place for them to be there. So the divers, of course, got the most close-up views of the aircraft, but we also found one American fighter and another twin-engine Japanese bomber that we could snorkel on that was just in 5 meters of water. And that was, yeah, the snorkelers loved, particularly the bomber. It was quite incredible. It's right near Munda, near the modern airstrip there. And we actually found the story of that plane, and there's a whole write-up that explains the American fighter pilot's view perspective as he
Mm.
shot the plane down, and also the Japanese air crew that were on board who all survived the crash. They got shot up and then tried to land in the lagoon and managed to exit the aircraft. So it was really incredible to look at the history, but then read the sort of personal story from those sites. The other incredible dive story we had on this particular trip, Brian has a GPS collection of lat and long of locations so that he can go back and dive exactly to the aircraft. And so they hopped in on one of these aircraft, the divers, not the snorkelers. And it was the viz wasn't great and there was a strong current. And they went down and they couldn't find the aircraft. And what they didn't quite realize was the current was taking them along faster than they thought. And all of a sudden they found an aircraft and our guests were like, oh, this is really cool, really amazing. And Brian surfaced and was like really excited and animated. And we're like, what's going on? He's like, it's a new aircraft. We didn't even know that was there. So there's a database of all the wrecks of aircraft and ships that some hobbyists have put together. And so Brian was very excited about being able to go and identify that aircraft. And then there'll be some history boffins who will look up and try and figure out if they can find, the story behind that particular aircraft. Brian's got another amazing story of a number of years ago bringing a World War II pilot, an American pilot who must have been in his 90s, back to visit the wreck of his plane. And they got him in a
Incredible.
there's a film about it, and they put a full face mask on him with a microphone so he could talk while he was underwater. And he went back on scuba gear and sat in the cockpit of his own plane. It's just, yeah, incredible to wrap your mind around that. So overall, for me, the Solomons is a more adventurous destination than some others, I suppose. It's a bit more out there. We didn't see any other tourists or travelers. There was no cruising yachts. We didn't see another whiteface for 10 days, which is an incredible feeling. I think of the Solomons sort of being more sort of conceptually between Fiji, perhaps, and Palau, where Fiji is a fantastic place, but there's resorts and other vessels and and other tourists. Palau is incredible, but it's a UNESCO World Heritage Area, so there's no local community or very, very little on the actual trip. So it's really about the wildlife and the natural history. And the Solomons is right in the middle, where you've got incredible natural history, incredible geology and geography and underwater world, incredible culture that we interact with on a daily basis. And then, of course, the World War II history, which is incredibly fascinating. So there's already been some jostling amongst the guides about who gets to lead the next trip. So
Alex got to stay in Palau, so maybe I'll get to go.
Yeah. We're very excited about the Solomons, and we're also talking about developing some expedition, camping-based trips there as well in the future. But at the moment, we've got the two liveaboard departures as we begin to learn the place and figure out how the kayaking fits into that landscape.
Something I've noticed just from talking to you after the trip is how wild the place is, or the feeling of wildness and space, and how much space there is for exploration, and how that sort of sings to me and us, I guess, as adventurers, and how we like to do our
we're very excited about it because it's what we would do personally.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. From the trip, was there any sort of specific I don't know, was there one day that's a bit of a highlight, or one experience, or two? You can have two, even if you can think of.
There's quite a few.
Yeah. Well, what about one?
I think, given that last trip was our first trip, every day you kind of like, I hope everything works out, And there wasn't a day when we weren't sort of blown away by the experience. I think Morovo Lagoon for me was very much the highlight. There's 700 square kilometers of lagoon. It's massive. And it's not all shallow, it's quite deep, so we can bring the vessel in. So we came in through this passage and then up into the lagoon, and there's two extinct volcanoes as a backdrop. So it's got this wonderfully remote and wild feeling. And as we left the lagoon 2 days later, we paddled through this little narrow channel and then out of the lagoon and into the ocean. And as we we're paddling through the channel, a couple of hornbills flew by, and they're quite incredible. They've got this, they sound like what I imagine a pterodactyl would sound like, a very primeval kind of call. And then we hopped out of the kayaks and we let the Zodiacs take the kayaks back to the vessel. And we put our snorkeling gear on and we actually swam through the channel from Morovo Lagoon into the open ocean. And it was just amazing. This big limestone kind of cut, and you could look down into these funky rock formations, heaps of those Gorgonian fans, the big sea fans, because they love the current, where the current's coming and going. And then, yeah, heaps of fish, and then turtles. And then we had a fantastic skipper on the boat. He's very good at positioning the vessel like close to the reef. So he'd like backed the boat right up, and we literally swam along the reef edge and then just climbed out onto the dive deck. And there's Rain, the host, with with iced coffee for everyone. Like, yeah, that's my favorite day.
That's awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. We flick through to the next. Yeah, I guess we'll come back to some questions. I just very quick summary. We've got dates in May in 2026 coming up. That's our Honiara to Munda adventure, and then we've got our early November Honiara. And just the way we structured that was just based on the logistics to do with some other voyages going on. Both trips cover effectively the same areas, so you'll have one extra night of steaming on the return voyage on the 4 to 15 November trip. So just a little more moving on the ship, but you still cover all the same ground. And of course, we'll have our 2027 dates out very soon. So if that's of interest, please let us know. Obviously, in the itinerary that we'd send out, if you're interested, if you would like, it covers all of the inclusions. But really, I just wanted to say, basically, once you get on board the vessel, everything is covered for you with the exception of alcohol and tips and Wi-Fi. All activities are included, all equipment. Unless you're a diver, if you're a diver, you'll need to provide your own dive gear, or it's available for hire on board.
The one thing I'll just butt in there,
Yeah.
you'll see custom fees, and people often ask what they are. So traditionally in the Solomons, there's traditional owners of all the islands and all the land. And so as visitors, we can't just sort of rock up and help ourselves to their beach. So we always make sure that we go and find out who the owner is, and we pay a fee that's mandated by the local community. And so that way, our trip through the islands there contributes a reasonable amount of income to those local communities. So we pay to moor the vessel, we pay to visit a site, and that brings local income, which is pretty rare out there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And so that's already covered within the cost of the trip. I won't go into too much detail, but just while we're here, we've got lots of other liveaboard programs going on as well. And we will have just separate webinars on each of these in the coming months. Palau, obviously, we've got our January trip coming up very soon for 2026, and October, November as well. The Komodo Islands, famous for the Komodo dragon and beautiful white sand beaches and exceptional diving and jagged mountains. That's coming up in June and August, with the August departure is already full. We'll be launching our new Fiji departures in the coming weeks, the dates, etc. For that'll be in July, September, and October in the Osawa group of islands, but also out to a new destination, Taveuni. And the Abrolhos Islands, we've been running that for a couple of years now. Yeah, quite a magical part of the world. Famous for the wreck of the Batavia, of course, as well as being a wildlife haven. And we'll be back out there in May, which is may just be one of the best months to avoid the wind. Yeah. And then, of course, we've got our trips out to Sulawesi in September, which we've been doing for the last couple of years as well. So, yeah, just in a very quick summary, the trips begin in Honiara, over to Munda, over here, 12 days, 11 nights, May and November. Obviously, kayaking, snorkeling, diving, hiking, village visits, and cultural excursions. and siestas if you're with Chris. I don't know if I'll have siestas. No. Siestas
I'm a
are,
little older than you.
yeah, only just. Yeah, we've got 14 spaces in total on each departure in a range of different cabin styles. So I'll open it up to questions at this point here. Yeah, so please feel free. I will just stop sharing so we can go back to a larger screen. But please feel free to fire away with any questions. And you're allowed to have no questions. That's okay. You're also, if you want to just turn on your video and/or microphone, you're welcome to say a quick hello or anything you'd like.
Hello.
Hello, Fran. Are you here to say
Yes.
hello, or do you have a question?
No, I wanted just to say that next year I can't do it. But yes, I'd be interested to see what you come up with in 2027. You've got some marvelous, exciting trips.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
Yeah,
Sulawesi one looks fairly interesting as well.
that's been
But
really well received, and Chris we've been pretty busy with working out some new things and doing some slightly different things, which have all worked out incredibly well. So we're very happy to be continuing to repeat those, which is excellent. Yeah.
I think what's so nice about the Solomon Islands trip is Palau was fantastic, but what I also enjoyed very much in the Yasawas was having the villages,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
like that interaction, and the fact that they speak English is also a plus because you can then learn a bit more about their culture and
Yeah.
have a bit more engagement, which I think is really nice. Yeah,
Yeah, and the crew, of course, are local as well. So we've got some local crew
yeah.
on board too. We've got a strong
Yeah, actually,
connection.
there's only the entire crew in the Solomons were local, except for the engineer. He was the only one who wasn't.
Yeah.
And they were a fantastic bunch. They were all a little bit skeptical about kayaking at the beginning, and then the moment they realized that, like, they all grew up in canoes, they all grew up paddling canoes. So a couple of the crew hopped in and paddled a kayak around on day two, and then we couldn't get them out of the kayaks.
Yeah.
We had a really great friendly relationship with the crew, which was really pleasant.
Oh, that's great. Well, the local guides we had on our trip, Ollie and Sean in Palau, they were great. And they did impart a lot of knowledge, and that to me is also part of the whole trip, that
Absolutely.
you
Definitely.
not
Yeah. I mean, it's the main reason why we travel, isn't it? Is to have different
yeah,
experiences, because if it was the same as home, it wouldn't have the same value.
Yeah.
yeah. I know we all love paddling, obviously, but I mean that's only one part. It's only
Yes.
one
That's
part.
right.
So
Absolutely. We're very conscious
yeah.
to ensure we have a local element included in the trips because it's just important to be able to engage with those places on a range of levels.
Well, same with Fiji. I think we had four fellows. That was fantastic too. But they didn't speak as good English as I recall. So yeah, it's great about the English speaking. That's good, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. The
Not
Fiji
that
guys are
we,
just a bit shy, but they've got a lot better actually.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. A couple are quite shy.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but then with more contact, I'm sure they'll loosen up a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
Give
some
it
of
a
it
go.
comes with language confidence as well.
Yeah, that's what I
As they
mean.
feel more confident with their,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
a second or third language, then they're much more
yeah.
outgoing.
Yes, it's like me practicing my Spanish. So, anyway, very good. Yeah. No, thank you. I just wanted to share that. Yeah. So,
Thank you very much, Fran.
I've got no other, I just 2027, I'll be curious. You're always expanding, Toby. You're coming up with
Our
amazing stuff.
problem, our problem is we run some trips and everyone's like, "Where are you going to go next? We'll come somewhere else with you." And then we all get all excited and start researching because that's what we love doing the most.
Yeah, yeah. And the trouble is too, though, like you see one of your trips, like say Sulawesi, and it's only maybe one trip. You say, "Oh, I really want to go on that," but then there's no other trip, So, yeah,
Timing
you
wise, yes.
have to
Yeah,
keep up with
often
you.
it's to do with seasonality and
Yeah,
also availability of the vessels as well. Um,
yeah,
it's always a bit of a puzzle to make them work.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how you got hold of all these vessels, but it's quite a big exercise what you've.
Lots of
Lots of
networking.
networking, that's right.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Anyway, I just well, I'm dominating here, so I'll allow anyone else to talk. Yeah,
No,
thank
that's
you.
quite all right. Thank you so much, Fran.
Thanks, man.
It seems it's all right. We've got just a small number of people here today, which is fine. But if there's no other questions, I will wrap it up. So I'll just stop the recording.